You may be thinking you're accomplishing a certain thing, but the result is different. Sometimes that can be good, but sometimes it might not be good. Yeah, like for example, uh, what's his name? Um, I always have these informations in my head before I come to the show. Yeah, that when the show starts, it all goes out. No, no, it hides in the closets in my brain. Yeah. Shit. Anyway, let me start a different way. I remember I was in university. I took this one class. What was it called? Gee, that's a long time ago. I'm forgetting everything. It had to do. It was oh, what was it? It was in the social sciences, and I believe it was at different universities. It has like uh, different like in one university it might fall under the section of social sciences, and another one it might fall under something else. Yeah. So but it's still the same thing. It has to do with eh, mm, it was a now it's coming to me. How about that? My brain is in gear. It's because I had a chocolate bar today. I had a Toblerone, so now I'm thinking really good. Shoot. It was oh, I can see the course name in my mind, that I can't remember the title of the course. It's like a human growth and development kind of course. And basically it talks about the different theories of learning, you know, um, cognitive and all this kind of fancy schmancy hoo ha terms that I don't even remember what they mean anymore. But I remember some of the things that really caught my attention. There was one. I don't know if the guy was a psychologist or anthropologist or ethnologist or whatever kind of ist he was. He came up with this really cool scale of intelligence. Now, I'm talking like 1986, 85, back in university. Yeah, I was back in the university. Long time ago. Gee, many crackers. That was 31 years ago. Is that right? 31 years ago? No, 85, so 32. Gee, many holy smackers. 32 years ago. Wow, time flies. Hmm. Anywho, I'm not concerned about that. I'm enjoying the ride, so that's more important to me. Okay, this was a course. I mean, they were. What is this guy's? I want to say in America they say Kahler, but I think that's incorrect. I think that's a German name. So if it's a German name, it's Kahler. Yeah, Kahler's intelligence scale, I think is what it was called. Maybe it's called something else now, but back then it had 6 levels, and I don't know if they increased that. Yeah, I mean this study was done a long time ago, but it was it really it really is interesting. Yeah, so it goes from 1 to 6, 6 being genius level, one being just total, barbaric kind of guy. Yeah, uh, and 3 and 4 are kind of what most of the world is. Yeah, 3 and 4. In between, okay. 5 is close to genius. Most smart people in this world are in the 5. Okay, and the 2 is really idiot level. So you have total barbaric guy, idiot level, and then mediocre, lower mediocre level, upper mediocre level, and then smart guy, and then genius. I shouldn't say guy. I don't mean to be sexist. So sorry about that, people. I mean smart person, and then genius person. Ding number six. Okay, I was a little bit confusing. Let me say that again. Bottom level be just total barbaric guy. Next, idiot guy. Yeah, and then uh, lower medium guy, and then upper medium person, I should say, and then uh, really smart person, and then genius person. Okay, now when he's this scientist, I don't remember which one it is. I think we were studying population at that time in this course. Yeah, because it has to do with the attributes of the society, and then he's you have this scale of 1 to 6. Now remember, this is just a theory, okay? This is not okay. I'm going to take a test, so I'm in level 5, and I have a certificate to show. See right here. No, it's not like that. It's just a theory. But the thing is, it's really got some interesting points. And one of them, the one that stuck with me the most, was how this kind of does a horseshoe. Okay? So imagine in your mind level 1 through 6. The bottom is 1, the top is 6. Okay? Imagine this straight line going up from 1 to 6 in the air. Okay, just imagine this in front of yourself. Now, leave the 1 where it's at. Okay? But where the 6 is, bend this imaginary line so that it comes down to the 1 but not touching the 1. Okay? So you're going to end up with like an upside down U or a horseshoe. It has a horseshoe pattern. Okay. What this means is that there are some attributes in level 1 that are very attractive to attributes in level 6. And same thing, uh, level 2, there's something that level 2 and level 5, they kind of pull towards each other. So now this U is turning into like a bubble, yeah, with the opening at the bottom, like a balloon, but an opening at the bottom, yeah. So you have the 2 and 5s really attract each other strong, and so do 1 and 6. There's something about six, level 6, that is very appealing to level 1, and vice versa. That's why with some geniuses, they, when people hear the word genius, they think, oh yeah, they're a scientific lab coat, and coming up with some kind of uh, you know theorem, and going to solve some kind of disease or come up with a new element or whatever, and always working in scientist labs, and that kind of thing. And people think that's what genius is. In some cases, yes, but most no. Yeah, there are some geniuses who realize this is all bullshit and prefer to do nothing. Yeah, those are geniuses too. But there's something that that attracts them to people in level 1, and vice versa. Same thing with level 2 and level 5. Now, this caller, when he was using this examples of people who are on level 6, one of them, the one that stuck in, he listed a whole bunch, and one of them that stuck in my mind was Martin Luther King. He was in the level 6. Okay, now they they these people, they studied the movements. Yeah, they studied the civil rights movement. Studying the crowd, and and things like that. And this is one of the reasons why. I mean, when as they're observing, every time he Martin Luther King would get out and make a speech someplace, that they observed the crowd, and Martin Luther King said brilliant things, but a lot of the people that were very closely uh, attracted to Martin Luther King, they didn't really understand what he was saying, but it was something else that attracted them to him. And they started to see this in other group situations too. Not just in Martin Luther King, but other ones too. So that's when they started to realize that this is a peculiar characteristic, that this is a part of the human existence. Yeah, that this is really an interesting phenomena. It just turns out that way. So when Martin Luther King would say something, sometimes this the people in the level 1 and level 2, they would hear it and they would applaud and they like it, but then they take that information and put it through their own brains, and somehow it becomes jumbled up into a different message, and then the next thing you know, they go and do something violent. It's their interpretation of what he said. Yeah, but there was something underneath that is attracting them to each other. Same thing for Dr. Martin Luther King. Is that there was some things that he was attracted to these level 1, level 2 people as well. So it's really an interesting phenomena. That this is a human characteristic, and what binds all of this is communication. In Lakota, communication is in two ways. One way most of the world knows. Okay, talking. Yeah, talking and doing things. How you talk, how you do things. Yeah, the way you do things. All these kind of things. Those are all communication, but that's just half of it. In the Lakota way, the other half is how do you interpret what you see, feel, hear, taste, and what's the other one? Smell. How do you interpret information that's coming to you? That's the other half. In other words, you have to learn how to listen. Most of us hear, but most of us don't really listen. If you're forming a response to me as I'm talking, you're not listening. You see what I mean? That's how it is. And we learned this in university. We learned how to listen. No, really, active listening. Yeah, we took a course. I forgot what the course was called, but it's a course every student has to take at the university that I went to. And this is the days before the internet. So part of this course, you had to learn how to use the library, everything about the library and how to find books and things like that. You learned how to uh, find out what your learning style is, and how to speed read. It's really easy. Yeah, it's not hard at all. It's so simple. It's ridiculous. Okay. Um, and what else? When you speed read, you go through it incredibly fast, and the second time you go through it normal, then you go through it a third time really fast again. Yeah, it's something like that, and it does work. Your retention, your comprehension really increases when you do it that way. Because the university wanted us to become successful graduates, so this is why they developed this course like that, time management and all these things. And one of the things that we learned was um, how to listen to your instructor. Yeah, because sometimes they're giving a lot of information out and you don't realize it because half the time you're off into la la land. Yeah, checking out somebody who's really cute or something like that, or thinking, "What am I gonna eat tonight?" Or, "Ooh, geez, those tacos are not sitting good in my stomach right now." So you're not really getting the full deal when you're in class sometimes. So we learned all these things, and it does work. My grades were okay, but after this course, they were really okay. They did go up, yeah. So it does work. So most of us, that's what I found out, is most of us don't know how to listen. We know how to hear, but we're supposed to do something with that. Yeah, we have to listen, just like talking. Yeah, if we were like, okay, we don't need a language. We just make sounds. Hippy hippy fay fay, chippy nay nay. Yeah. What? A chickapay, chickapay, hippy hippy fay tay. Huh? Are you from Nashville? Shoot. Off guy. Shoot. See, we organize sounds into words and so forth, and they find meaning. That took some active thinking. Yeah, but we did that, but we didn't do the same thing when it comes to receiving. Yeah, so that's why most of us we hear, but we're not really actively listening. That's really important to do. So this is communication. Yeah, it's not just what you say and do and how you say and do things. It's how you interpret incoming communication. In Lakota, how you do this whole process, it's it sends out an energy, then that energy comes back to you 4 times as strong. So if it's unhealthy, it's going to come back to you unhealthier, more unhealthy. If it's healthy, it comes back to you more healthy. See what I mean? That's how it works. And this is Wawokia. Natural law of generosity is what this is. Okay? So when you have a large group of people, so a lot of times you're going to have really smart people leading the group. But what's you think that that would be a cool thing. And in some ways it is. But in other ways it's not. Because it ends up if the person is brilliant, that person is going to also attract. I mean, not only is that person going to attract other brilliant people, but it's going to have a special attraction to the idiots. And the problem here is that he's not going to enlighten the idiots because they don't have that comprehension. Now, no, I don't mean any disrespect to dumb people, but in this world there are dumb people. That's just a fact. They're just you just can't enlighten them at all. They're just that way. And a brilliant person is not going to change them. Yeah. What's going to happen is that these idiots, these dumb people, they're going to hear the message. They're going to like what they hear, but when the message goes into their minds, they're not really registering the whole thing. And so it gives them thoughts that are not really consistent with what the brilliant person said, with what the smart person said. And so these dumb people, they then take this information And like I said, it gels in their brains, and then they end up doing incredibly stupid things, but in their mind, they're validated by the genius of the group. In their minds, they think they did the right thing. That's interesting, isn't it? This is a concept that is exists in every human group. So how do you fix it? First of all, you don't have a leader. There cannot be a leader of the group because that's what starts this. Yeah. So no, and you look at ancient Lakota society, there was no president of the tribe. There was no chief of the group. That didn't exist. There was no chief of the Sioux Nation. That didn't exist. What you had was a council of chiefs, and nobody was better than the other. Nobody was considered greater than the other. In traditional Lakota government, there's no one leader. There's going to be at least four councils, at least. If the group is big, there's going to be more than four. But there's two groups that are always the same in every Lakota group, and these are the old people. Okay, one group of old people. These are people who really did outstanding things in their lives. Yeah, they're fierce hunters, and they were in battle. They were very smart in battle, in warfare, and that's one council. The other council of elders are people who are philosophical. Yeah, they're more in the mind. They're more of a in like really really just brilliant. Okay, but both of these two groups have the same common denominator, and that's Wangshila, compassion. This is how they keep grounded, so nobody has tries to rise above the other. So these two elder groups, they're going to be the advisory board, so to speak, to the other councils. So if you have a typical uh, uh, council back in the day, you're going to have at least four younger councils. Okay, four younger councils, and they all meet and they talk about whatever. If there's a problem or somebody has an idea to do something, then they take it before these councils and everybody talks about it. Every family has a member on the council. There's no elections, but every family is represented in one of the councils. So there's equal representation. Okay, and then after they have the situation presented to them, then they start talking. What do you think? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, I don't know either. let's go have a taco or something. Yeah? And then they take it before the elder groups. Yeah, and then those guys talk amongst it, and then amongst themselves, I mean, and then they all come together and they say, okay, this is what we think. So one group says it's what it thinks, another group says what it thinks, and the elder groups they say what they think, and then they come up with the solution based on all of this input, all of this presentation, and then they go, aha, now we got it. That's what we'll do. Takes a long time, but it keeps the peace. So in this way, everybody had a representation. There was no um, person above the others. So all the reasoning happened in these meetings. So, and also there's other things you have to take into consideration too, is that the society was emotionally developed, unlike today's Western world. So, because of that, they were able to listen. They knew how to listen when others were speaking. So, that's how it functioned in those days. So, this didn't give an opportunity for people in level one to misinterpret people in level six and then do something really stupid and end up hurting the whole camp. See what I mean? That's a Tioshbai way of thinking. It's a community thinking perspective. When you have a community thinking perspective, this this thing like this Kahler's a scale of six levels of intelligence does not stand a chance to even form. But when you have a society where people strive to be the leader of something, that's going to create this scale automatically. And that's when, like I said, the people who are on level one and level two, they hear what's being spoken by people in level five and level six. However, they misinterpret it because they don't have the capacity to truly understand the depth of the message. And so when they do something, they think they're doing what the people in level in five, six want them to do. But in actuality, it ends up going in a complete opposite direction, and the group gets hurt. It's a detriment to the whole group. Anyway, let me get down to business here with talking about um, the scale of intelligence in a society that has a one leader concept. Yeah, and I want to give you some examples of how this can go wrong. Yeah, how this is dangerous. As you know, some of you may know, um, last year was a very controversial year, especially for Germany. Um, you know that in Syria, uh, their president is bombing his own people, using chemical weapons against his own people. Uh, what happened is that see, um, a lot of the North African countries, these are Muslim countries, and um, and several years ago, you might remember something called the Arab Spring, yeah, and this is where the people got tired of what's happening um, with their governments, and so they start overthrowing the governments and opting for a more democratic system. So it sounded like a good thing, uh, but it's not. Yeah, it backfired, and they were doing this country by country by country. They were doing this on the North African coastline of the Mediterranean Sea, and when they got to Syria, that's where they had trouble. Uh, the people were trying to overthrow the government like the Arab people did in the other countries, but it didn't work. Instead, uh, the president there, his name is Assad, he got his military to start fighting against these rebels, yeah, that want to overthrow the government. But the problem is that the normal people are caught in the middle. And so this Assad doesn't care. Yeah, if he thinks that there's rebels in some part of some city, then he sends his people to go bomb it, even though there's a lot of people there that are that don't have anything to do with this. Yeah, and several years ago, he was using mustard gas, bombs that had that Seratin. Is that what it's called? Sarin. Uh, it's something with mustard gas, and it's awful. Yeah, you can't breathe. You really get hot, and you get weird kind of burns or something like that. I can't remember how the. I think you get burns inside your body too, or something like that. He used that against his own people, and so it's something really, really wrong is happening there, and so people started fleeing. Yeah, they don't want to leave because that's their home, but it's so horrible. The living conditions are so horrible. They have no choice but to leave. It's a sad situation. That's the most of the group that's coming into Europe for a better life. Okay, sounds nice and everything, but it's not, um, because religion where uh, it's it is they the underlying thought is of peace and tolerance. However, it doesn't get interpreted that way. When they're spiritual people, they're called imams. When they start talking in their mosques, men, like I said, remember this intelligence scale, okay? And most people are in the one and two usually, okay? The three and four is probably the small. Three and four is probably this intelligence scale, yeah, that I talked about in the last hour. Three and four is it's kind of like I said, medium, okay, mediocre. I shouldn't even say mediocre. Medium is probably better. Mediocre. Okay, sorry about that. Medium area. Excuse me. This uh, this group is not too big. Okay, most people are in the one and two, and very few people are in the five and six. So um, when you have a big religion like this, and you have imams who are in the one and two, and they're saying things, but most of the people are in. I got that wrong. Most imams are in the five and six, that level five and six. Okay, they're more intelligent. However, most of the people are in one and two. It's like this in every group that has a one leader concept. Okay, every group is this way. It don't matter what religion or skin color or whatever. It's always this way when you have a one leader concept. Okay, so um, most people are in the one and two. So when they hear their spiritual people or political leaders or whatever talking, they hear one thing and they agree with it. But when it goes through their brain, they misinterpret it, and then so next thing you know, you end up with radicals. Yeah, and then that's bad enough. Okay, so even though um, their way is saying that they're peaceful and tolerant, even though that's what the leaders say, it's not that way because this people in this level one and two, they don't interpret it the same way, and so as a result, most of them are intolerant. They're not tolerant towards others who are different. And then some of those guys somehow, maybe through popularity or whatever, they become imams next, and so now you have the extreme is growing exponentially. Yeah. So now those guys are saying what the stupid people want to hear. And that's a deadly, deadly potion there, deadly combination. Okay, so the problem here though is that thinking underneath, yeah, what's happening underneath. That's the problem. So that mentality is what's coming, or is what came with a lot of these immigrants that came in to Europe last year. A lot of them have that mentality. And all you got to do is go into any one of these cities in Germany where they have these refugee centers. Go near there, and you'll see what I mean. It's horrible. You don't feel safe, and in the news, a lot of them were arrested for groping women, and because they come from a paternalistic society, so they think they can do whatever they want. If the woman is not Muslim, then to them she's an enemy of God, so they think they can do whatever they want. See that mentality? That's what I don't like. That's what came with them. That mentality. Okay, so that's the problem. It's a huge problem because their boys, the young boys, they see this and they think that's the way they're supposed to be. And the young girls, they see their moms as being very much of a slave, basically, so they think that's what they're supposed to be. The brainwashing begins at home, and that mentality continues, and it's against German law. Yeah, so it's an interesting situation because they don't want to leave Syria, but they have no choice if they want to live. But when they come to Europe, they they have that perspective that they believe their Islamic law supersedes European law. So therefore, they don't want to follow the laws in their countries. Give you an example. There was a couple, just in the news. This incident happened, I think, last year when they started coming. Yeah, the refugees, the immigrants, and this one couple, they got into an argument, and the woman, uh, she realized that in Germany she has rights. Yeah, that she has rights that she did not have when she was in Syria. So she her marriage was arranged, okay? And now that she's in the country where she's free, she she sees hope finally. So she wants to end the marriage. So they have a separation. She uses a German lawyer, and they she files for separation, and they're going to get ready, preparing for divorce. Well, this guy could not handle it because all remember they have this perspective, this patriarchal perspective, that if a woman treats a guy like this, then she's an enemy to God. So they gave him a bad time about that. His the men from his group. So one day he got to he was supposed to they have a son, and he was the court allowed him to have visits, yeah, and so he went to go see his son and got in an argument with his uh, his estranged wife, and he hit her, knocked her to the ground, and while she was almost knocked out, he tied her to the back of the car, put his son in the back seat in the baby seat, and then he started driving the car up and down the street, dragging his wife on the pavement. And the only way she got out was the rope came off the bumper. Yeah, because if that didn't happen, she probably would have died like that. But thank goodness that rope came off. And so she rolled to the side of the road, and by that time there were people that saw it. So they ran over to her and saw that she was cut up pretty bad in her face. And they called the police and they called the ambulance right away. And before her estranged husband could do anything, the authorities arrested him. So now he's got sent to. I think he's in prison now, and he's trying to say that when he went there to visit, he did not have the intention of doing that, but that she got him mad. He's trying to blame her and make himself the victim. And so he went into a fit of rage, and he didn't plan on doing these things to her, but he had gardening things in the trunk of his car, which was part of his job, evidently. So he said that the only reason why those he had those things was because he was a gardener, and people are not believing it. The judge didn't believe it. But see, he thinks in the patriarchal way that he thinks, he's the victim, that therefore he should not be sent to prison because of that. But his wife made him do that to her. That's abusive relationship. He's a batterer, he's an abuser. But in their society, that's normal because of their patriarchal way. You see, that's the mentality that came up here. That's what concerns me. And there's a lot of that. So it is troublesome. Yeah, very troublesome. And like I said, when they hang out in large groups, and they hang out like in certain stores that maybe there's a place to sit down, like a outside cafe kind of thing. So they all sit there all day long. So if you walk by, if you're a German woman and you walk by, they start harassing you and they try to feel you up. Yeah, they surround you, and it's really they're like bad neighbors. Yeah, in a low rent apartment complex. You know how that can be. Yeah, so you see that mentality is there. Okay, so this is causing problems, and this is happening in other countries too in Europe. It's not just Germany, but because Germany let in over 1 million refugees since they started coming, the more that means more problems show up in Germany. So, a group of German people decided enough is enough, and they were saying this is you know um, the law is bending to these immigrants in many cases, and this is their argument. Okay, this group of Germans that were complaining, this is part of their argument, saying that the government and politicians are bending to the immigrants, and thereby they're kind of going against their own citizens. So, uh, they want Germany to be free, because they're saying if you let too many in, they're going to overpopulate, and then they're going to take over the country, and Germany will become a Islamic state. And the sad reality is this is true. Yeah, that the German birth rate is incredibly low. So there's people who study societies and populations, and they based on the way things are happening right now, they did a projection, and they're saying that by the year 2030 there'll be more Muslims in Germany than non-Muslims, and now we're facing the possibility of Germany becoming an Islamic state, all because of birth rates. The birth rates among Muslims is really high. So it is a danger. It's not racist or xenophobia or anything. This is a fact based on population studies. Okay? So this group in Germany, they're using this as their foundation to complain to the government that if they continue doing things the way they are, that Germany will no longer be Germany. That argument is what got them a lot of followers. They all started to think the same. And they were saying, yeah, we cannot let that happen. We cannot let, uh, that the we cannot accept the idea that in the future Germany could become an Islamic state. And maybe they even changed the name to some other country name. So their argument is to stop that by any means possible. So in the beginning, they stated intelligent reasons. Yeah, use citing studies done on population forecast and all this stuff. It is very real. It's not a myth. And with all that factual information, it looks crazy. The future. Yeah. So this group wants to prevent that from happening. Okay. When I heard that, I was like, okay, I can get on board with that. But see, here's the problem. The problem is that the leaders of this group, they're smart. They're not dumb. Yeah, they are smart. But look at this Kaler scale of intelligence again. See what they are smart people, and what they're attracting are the neo Nazis. And so the group evolved into a white nationalist group. Before, in the beginning, it had an agenda that I could buy. I could buy into that argument. But it transformed into a white nationalist movement, which means after they get rid of the Muslims, they're going after the black people, they're going after the Asian people, and eventually they're coming after me because I'm not a white German. That's their motivation. That is their goal. It's horrible. So, what started as a group of concern because it attracted more. And remember, I said there's more. Most people are in level one and level two. That's why I'm not interested in having the biggest show on this network of Blog Talk. Because that would mean most of my listeners are idiots. And I don't want idiots listening to this show. See, not that humble. Oh man, no, I didn't mean it like that. But um, because there's most people are in this level one and level two of this Collar scale of intelligence. This this group of Germans that they started to attract a lot of people from that level one and level two, and a lot of those people are neo Nazis that they're in there, and they support this group. So what I thought was a group of presenting information that we should be concerned about. That's quickly developed into a white supremacist group. It's dangerous. Excuse me. Yeah, it's a dangerous thing to think about. So that group is growing in numbers because it's attracting level one and level two people. So what started as an argument, let me say it one more time. What started as an argument of presenting information that we should be concerned about, that evolved into a white supremacist group. So it's racist. Yeah. So this is an example where you have leaders who were smart in the beginning, but they attracted a lot of level one and level two. And in Germany, that's Nazis, neo Nazis. So it's backfiring. So what are we going to do about that? See, it's an interesting question. So that's an example of how uh, a group starts out with good intentions, but because it attracts a lot of level one and level two people, the group evolves into something unhealthy. Yeah, and it has that one leader concept. That's what gives this scale power. That people in level one and level two are just naturally attracted to people in level five and level six. But because they're on opposite ends of the spectrum, their level of comprehension is vastly small compared to those who are in level 5 and level 6. So even though levels 1 and 2 attract levels 5 and 6 and vice versa, they're not really on the same team, and and they both are becoming racist, both sides. So there you have it. Yeah, that's one example of how something with good intentions can evolve quickly into a very bad group because of the people in level 1 and level 2. Now, there was another example that I wanted to show you, and now, oh yeah, the one in England. Yeah, the one in England. They were called the United Kingdom. I don't know what the I stood for, and the P probably stood for party. It's a political party, and it started very similar to the one in Germany. The one in Germany is called Alternative for Deutschland, AFD. It's a racist group. But in England, another one formed too. And in France, Marine Le Pen. That's part of that movement. Netherlands, same thing. So in England, in London, uh, this guy, now I forget his name, but he really got the ball rolling for this UKIP, this United Kingdom something party. I want to say United Kingdom Independence Party, but maybe that's wrong. Anyway, they were saying things that sounded good in the beginning. They were saying, "Yeah, look at this neighborhood. It's just totally becoming like little um, Istanbul." Yeah. So um, people in England, British citizens, are they don't like it. You know that neighborhoods are just greatly transforming into something they don't like to see. So this bothers them. So they were saying, if we don't do anything, they could, at one time in the future, they could overthrow us all because there's so many of them. So that transformed fast into this. Uh, I want to see. I see it as a racist group now. In the beginning, it sounded good. Yeah, it sounded like something I could get on board with, but I started to say, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. They're really talking very emotionally, and a lot of what they're saying is true. Yeah, that um, a lot of this way of thinking, this mentality among the Muslims that are coming into England, that they don't want to obey British law. They're doing things differently, and it's causing a lot of problem. That is true. Neighborhoods are changing. What used to be a friendly neighborhood is now dangerous. It happened almost overnight. My friend Pam, she's from Scotland, and she said one time she was outside and one of her neighbors is kind of a nice guy. His name is Ahmed. So she said, "Hi, Ahmed." And about seven other guys poked their heads out of the window. "Hi," they said. Each one thought she was talking to him. She said, "Geez, the neighborhood's changing." She said, and she's not a racist, okay? She has children who are part African. They're very beautiful. Yeah, very beautiful grandchildren. She's not a racist, but she's the one who told me about this. So I checked them out, and I thought, I could support what these guys are saying. This was like in the year 2010. Yeah, I could see that. I would be concerned too. But then it transformed fast. They started attracting, like I said, the people in level one and level two. And usually those are racist people. So this UKIP slowly evolved into a racist group. That's the danger. When you have a one leader society, this scale of intelligence suddenly shows up, and then you have most of the people in level one and level two that they have an attraction for the leaders, but then they don't fully or they don't have the capacity to uh what's the word? They don't have the capacity to comprehend fully what their leader is saying. So they start doing things thinking it's in line with what the leader is saying, and actually it's not. That's the danger of this scale. And what fuels it is when you have a group that has this idea, uh, the political idea of a one leader concept. That this is what can happen. It's not a good thing. So I think there's a way to approach this in a very smart way. And I haven't seen anybody do it yet. So these people who form these groups are usually in the low level 5 area. And remember what I said, level 5 attracts level 2 and some level 1. So even though he might be saying good ideas, he's attracting the wrong crowd. So it's a delicate situation. So remember, I really want to stress that when there is a one leader concept, the scale shows up, the 6 level scale of intelligence. And those who are leading the group, they naturally attract the people who are in 1 and 2, the idiots. And it's vice versa as well. This is setting up the country to fail, whatever country it's talking about. So it's a scary situation, yeah? Now you might be saying, well, that didn't happen among Indians. Yes, it did. It did too. In the 1970s. Late 60s is when the idea started into what transforms into the American Indian movement. Those who formed the unit made themselves the leaders, life, lifelong leaders. Yeah. So one more time, the people in the leaders, they're going to attract more people from the level 1 and level 2. So 1970s American Indian movement formed. It started out as a good idea because Indians are getting treated very unjustly in cities and everywhere. So they needed a voice to try to unite, and thus the American Indian movement was born. But it went too far because it has the one leader concept. So now they have infighting. Then one leaves and says, I'm going to form my own AIM, American Indian Movement. Another one leaves again and says, no, I'm going to form another one. And there's about 4 or 5 different AIM groups out there. They all call themselves AIM, American Indian Movement. See, this is the nature. They set the people who formed the group set themselves up as the leaders of the group. There was no election, nothing. And they attracted a lot of people, a lot of dumb people from level 1 and level 2. And there's racism there too. So we have to be careful about all this talk, yeah, concerning Muslims and whatever, because if we're not smart about it, we're going to cause a rift to form that's probably never going to heal. There'll always be trouble. There'll always be problems. And we don't want that. So there has to be another approach to this, which means people have to get smarter. Yeah? So the American Indian movement fits that too. They have a lot of members, but they're radicals. These are not very intelligent people. They're on that level 1 and level 2. So they print out a picture of Russell Means from the internet and they put it in a frame and hang it on their wall, just like other people have pictures of Jesus, yeah, and it's these racist Indians. They have their pictures of Russell Means and so forth, and it's not good. So something to think about, yeah. Just pausing there to think, man. Uh, when you have that one leader concept, look at all the shit that it causes. You would think that the brilliant leaders would be coming up with a good idea of how to solve whatever their problem is, but instead it goes the other way. This problem gets worse when AIM left Wounded Knee after their takeover in 1971 or 73. Um, that community was worse than it was before. And not all natives joined the American Indian movement. Us smart ones know it's a bullshit movement. That it uses tactics of fear, intimidation to control its people. The way of our ancestors. That's an oppressor way. So that Kaler's level of intelligence, American Indian movement is a victim to that too. It's not a good thing. Yeah. So you see, it it's the same thing uh, affected a native group too, which shows you that the American Indian movement is not a traditional movement. Because if it did, it would not have that one leader concept. And it wouldn't be doing the shit that it's been doing ever since they existed. That transformed into a mafia. They terrorize you. If you speak against them, they come at you. See, they don't believe in freedom of speech. That's kind of also like a dictator. So it's for those reasons that most native people do not belong to the American Indian movement because they don't want to be cast typed as those who come from that level 1 and level 2 group of idiots. So it applies even in the Indian world. It's a very interesting thing, yeah. So you have leaders that have they start out with a good intentions. They have good argument based on facts, and then turns somehow. It transforms. It transforms into something different. And and the result is troublemaking. Just like this alternative for Der Deutschland, the UKIP in England, what is that party called in France with Marine Le Pen? It's all the same shit. And the American Indian movement is also a part of that. The American Indian movement is also the same shit. That's why I don't support it. It's not traditional. A traditional group does not have a one leader concept. A traditional group is community thinking. The American Indian movement is not. And they're racist. They think all white people do the same are bad. Yeah, they think when one white person does something bad, they say, "Well, see, that's how it is. That's how white people are," and that's bullshit. White people are not all the same, and not all Indians are the same either. If all Indians were the same, we'd all be, in this asshole Indian movement. Well, thank God, or whatever higher being. Most of us are not in this group. Okay. Very good. So you see, it's an interesting thing. Yeah, when you have a society, when you have a society that has a one leader concept, this level of intelligence shows up, this scale, and the troublemakers end up having a lot of power somehow, and they think they're in line with what the leaders are saying. And I bet you anything, the people at the No Dakota Access the people at the No Dakota Access Pipeline camps in Cannibal, North Dakota, I bet you anything they had the same problem too. But they had their troublemakers as well that fucked it up for everybody. I bet you anything the same thing happened. They thought they were being traditional, but they weren't. They were racist. I mean, the ones who messed it up or tried to mess it up, saying all white people are the same, which is a lie because not all Indians are the same. Not all Indians are AIM. Not all Indians are the same. She- Going into my Jesse Jackson mode here. Oh shit. Okay.